Some horror announces itself with a scream. Folk horror does something worse. It waits in the woods, inside an old song, beneath a family tradition, or behind a rule everyone obeys without remembering why. In The Witch, the creature is barely seen, yet her influence stains almost every frame. That is the power of folk horror. The threat does not simply enter a community. It already belongs there. For this list, folk horror means stories where an ancient belief, ritual, or creature holds power over the people and the land around them. The elders may understand it. The children may have grown up hearing warnings about it. The outsider is usually the only person who does not know the rules. Unlike cosmic horror, which often deals with something impossible for the human mind to understand, folk horror is usually more intimate. Its monsters have names, its rituals have steps, its punishments have reasons. Sometimes, if you respect the rules, you survive. Sometimes the rules were designed so that you never could. We are looking at 6 of the most unsettling depictions of folk horror in movies. There will be major spoilers for every title. If you would rather enter these stories without knowing what is waiting in the dark, this is your warning. The Witch. Robert Eggers' The Witch takes place in 1630s New England. A deeply religious Puritan family is cast out of its settlement and forced to build a new life alone beside an enormous forest. Their new home looks peaceful from a distance, but almost immediately the land begins to reject them. Crops fail. Food spoils. The animals become unpredictable. The woods stand at the edge of the farm like a wall, and the longer the family remains there, the more it feels as if something on the other side is watching. The family believes they can survive through faith, discipline, and hard work. What they do not understand is that the forest already has an owner. Somewhere among those trees lives a witch, the oldest and most recognizable monster in European folklore. She receives very little screen time, but the movie makes her feel present even when she is nowhere in sight. Empty shots of the woods become threatening because we know there may be a face hidden behind the branches. Silence becomes evidence. The family's children already know the stories. They were raised on warnings about devils, witches, temptation, and women who sign their names in the devil's book. The youngest twins turn those warnings into games. They sing to the family's goat, Black Phillip, and insist that he speaks to them. They accuse their older sister, Thomasin, of being a witch, laughing as though the idea is harmless. But their comfort with the story is disturbing. It feels less like imagination and more like recognition. The film gives us several forms of the witch, each one shaped by a different fear. First, she appears as an ancient woman living in a hidden hut. After stealing the family's infant, she uses the child's body in a ritual that allows her to fly. The image is not loud or chaotic. It is quiet, moonlit, and horribly deliberate. Later, she appears as a beautiful young woman who lures the family's son deeper into the trees. As she reaches for him, the disguise briefly fails, revealing the cracked and withered hand beneath it. When the boy returns home, he is feverish and barely conscious. He speaks in a trance, caught somewhere between religious ecstasy and terror, before dying in front of his family. From that point forward, fear finishes the work the witch began. Suspicion spreads through the house. Every accident becomes proof of sin. Every family member becomes a possible enemy. The witch does not need to walk through the front door because she has already convinced them to destroy one another. By the end, Thomasin is the only one left alive. She has been accused, isolated, and stripped of every place she once belonged. Then Black Phillip finally answers her. The goat was never only a goat. He offers freedom, pleasure, and a life beyond the ruined farm. With nothing left to return to, Thomasin signs the book and follows him into the forest. There, a coven is waiting around a fire. As the women rise into the night sky, Thomasin rises with them. The ending is frightening because it feels like both damnation and escape. The witch did not merely kill a family. She created the conditions that would deliver Thomas in willingly. The forest wins, not through brute force, but by making its offer seem like the only choice left. The Blair Witch Project. The Blair Witch Project makes its monster even less visible. The witch never appears. We never receive a clear explanation of what she is, or even absolute proof that she exists. Yet her absence gives her more power. The legend says that a witch haunts the Black Hills Forest in Maryland. Children have vanished there. Strange symbols have appeared in the trees. One murderer claimed that a presence forced him to kill, making one child stand facing the corner while another died behind him. 3 student filmmakers enter the woods to investigate those stories. At first, they are confident. They have cameras, maps, and the comfortable belief that folklore becomes harmless once it is recorded. Then the forest stops behaving like a normal place. They walk for hours and return to the same location. Directions become useless. Distance seems to stretch. Time loses its shape. At night, something circles the tent. The group hears movement, voices, and sounds that do not belong to any animal they can identify. Small piles of stones appear outside their camp. Bundles of sticks hang from branches like crude human figures. None of these objects explains the danger, but each one feels like a fragment of a ritual whose meaning has been forgotten. The filmmakers do not know what the symbols demand. They only know the symbols were placed there for them. That is what makes the film pure folk horror. The woods are not simply a dangerous location. They are a place with memory. The group has entered something old and possibly sacred, and whatever controls it does not care whether the visitors believe the legend. Their skepticism offers no protection. Belief is not required for a curse to work. As exhaustion and fear pull the group apart, one of them disappears. Later, his voice seems to call from somewhere deeper in the forest. The remaining filmmakers follow it and discover a decaying house that should not be there. Inside, the camera catches broken rooms, dirty walls, and marks made by children. One character rushes into the basement. In the final image, he is standing silently in the corner, exactly as the old murder story described. The camera falls. A scream cuts through the darkness. Then nothing. The movie never confirms what happened, and that uncertainty is the trap. Perhaps the witch bent the forest around them. Perhaps she pulled different moments of history into the same place. Perhaps the legend was only a shape used by something even older. We are given just enough evidence to believe, and never enough to feel safe. The Wicker Man. The Wicker Man is brighter, stranger, and almost cheerful compared with the other films on this list. That warmth is a disguise. A police officer travels to the remote island of Summer Isle to investigate a missing girl. The residents claim that she never existed, even when evidence suggests otherwise. Their answers are polite, playful, and deliberately useless. From the moment the officer arrives, the whole community seems to be performing for him. Summer Isle follows a revived pagan religion. Fertility, crops, birth, death, and sacrifice are woven into daily life. Children learn unusual lessons at school. Songs and dances fill the streets. Animals and bodies are treated as parts of the same natural cycle. To the islanders, none of this is frightening. These are not secret practices hidden in a basement. They are the foundation of the society. That normality makes everything more unsettling. A grave is opened and an animal is found where a human body should be. A teacher calmly explains reproduction through plant imagery. People sing about desire in public. The officer sees blasphemy and corruption everywhere, while the islanders see tradition. The film keeps moving between absurdity and threat until the audience can no longer tell where the celebration ends and the ritual begins. The island's leader explains that his grandfather introduced new crops and restored the old religion. The community believes its survival depends on the favor of ancient gods. Whether those gods are real is almost irrelevant. The belief is real, the poor harvest is real, and the people are willing to kill to correct it. The missing girl investigation slowly reveals itself as a carefully prepared performance. Every clue, every denial, and every strange encounter was designed to guide the officer toward the May Day festival. The islanders need a particular kind of sacrifice, a man who comes willingly, holds authority, remains a virgin, and arrives with the power of a king's representative. Without realizing it, the officer has been selected for the role from the beginning. During the festival, villagers wear animal masks and elaborate costumes. The procession looks playful until it reaches the hillside. There, the officer finally sees the enormous wicker figure waiting for him. He is locked inside with animals and raised above the crowd. As the structure burns, the villagers sing. The officer prays, the animals scream, the sun sinks behind the flames. There is no last-second rescue and no supernatural twist. The horror is the community itself, ordinary people smiling together because they believe murder will restore the land. The ritual works whether or not the gods are listening. A sacrifice has still been made. The ritual begins with 4 friends hiking through the Swedish wilderness in memory of a 5th friend who died during a robbery. One of the men, Luke, witnessed the attack and froze instead of helping. His guilt follows him into the forest. He sees the dead man between the trees and steps through doorways that briefly return him to the store where the murder happened. Before the creature even appears, the woods are already using Luke's worst memory against him. After an injury, the group leaves the marked trail and takes a shortcut. That decision is the doorway. They discover a large animal gutted and suspended high in the trees, arranged like an offering or warning. Later, they find an abandoned cabin. Upstairs stands a faceless wooden effigy with antlers. It clearly represents something that was worshipped, but the men are cold and desperate, so they sleep beneath it. In the morning, each man wakes from a private nightmare. One is found naked and kneeling before the effigy. Another has injured himself. Nobody wants to admit what happened, because admitting it would mean accepting that the forest entered their minds while they slept. The deeper they travel, the less reliable the landscape becomes. Paths lead nowhere. Trees seem to repeat. The men argue, separate, and become easier to hunt. Eventually, they discover a small community hidden in the wilderness. Its people worship the creature living among the trees, a Jotun said to be descended from Loki. The being is one of the most disturbing monster designs in modern horror. It moves like a massive animal, but a twisted human torso rises where its head should be. Arms hang in the shape of antlers. Human eyes appear inside the body. Every new angle makes the anatomy harder to understand. It looks ancient, wounded, and holy in the worst possible way. The cult offers sacrifices, and in exchange, the creature grants its followers unnatural life. But immortality is another kind of imprisonment. The worshippers cannot leave. Their bodies continue while their humanity decays. The god does not love them. It owns them. The creature wants Luke to kneel. It forces him to relive his guilt and tries to reduce him to the frightened man who failed his friend. Luke cannot kill it. He cannot explain it. His only victory is refusing to worship. He stands, screams back at the thing, and crosses beyond the forest boundary. The creature stops at the edge. This is the rule beneath the ritual. The monster feeds on submission. Luke survives when he finally rejects the identity his guilt built for him. The forest allows him to leave, but it makes certain he understands exactly what was watching. Onibaba. For most of Onibaba, the horror appears completely human. The story takes place in feudal Japan during war and famine. An older woman and her daughter-in-law survive in a sea of tall reeds by murdering lost samurai, stripping their armor, and throwing the bodies into a deep pit. There are few characters and almost no escape from the grass. Wind moves through the field like something breathing. At the beginning, the film defines Onibaba, an old demon woman. For much of the story, that phrase seems symbolic. The two women are brutal because the world around them is brutal. Hunger has reduced morality to a luxury. Then a man returns from war and begins a relationship with the younger woman. The older woman fears she will be abandoned, so she uses religion and stories of punishment to frighten the couple apart. One night, a masked samurai asks the older woman to guide him through the reeds. She leads him to the pit and lets him fall to his death. When she removes his mask, she finds a scarred face beneath it. She keeps the mask and begins wearing it at night, pretending to be a demon so she can terrorize the younger woman. For a while, the disguise works. The younger woman believes a supernatural punishment is chasing her through the grass. Then rain falls, and the mask fuses to the older woman's skin. It will not come off. When the younger woman finally tears it away, the face beneath is raw and ruined. In that moment, the folktale becomes real. The woman who used fear as a weapon transforms herself into the demon she pretended to be. The curse may be supernatural, or it may be the result of poison and disease inside the mask. The explanation does not weaken the image. She has crossed a moral boundary, and the story gives that corruption a face. Onibaba saves its supernatural power for the end, because the movie spends so long inside a harsh but believable world. The final transformation feels like an old warning suddenly stepping out of the story and into reality. The reeds keep moving. The pit remains open. The demon woman was not waiting in the field. She was created there. Pumpkinhead. Pumpkinhead is more direct than the other films here. It is a monster story, a revenge tale, and a dark American legend brought to life. The movie takes place in an isolated Appalachian community where gas stations and dirt bikes exist beside graveyards, swamp cabins, and stories everyone knows better than to test. Heavy fog covers the landscape. Artificial blue and amber light makes every location feel like a stage built for a nightmare. A father named Ed Harley lives quietly with his young son. When careless teenagers cause the boy's death, grief leaves Ed desperate for revenge. The locals warn him about an old woman who lives deep in the woods. She cannot bring the dead back, but she can call something that punishes the living. The witch tells Ed where to find a buried body in a graveyard near an old pumpkin patch. He digs it up and carries it to her cabin. Through blood and ritual, she awakens Pumpkinhead, a vengeance demon bound to the person who summoned it. Once released, the creature hunts everyone connected to the boy's death. Pumpkinhead does not behave like a random animal. It understands fear. It isolates its victims, watches them, and takes its time. The design is tall, skeletal, and disturbingly intelligent, as if the thing enjoys letting people understand what is coming. Then Ed discovers the true price of the ritual. He is psychically connected to the demon. He sees each killing through its eyes and feels the violence as it happens. Revenge no longer looks like justice. It looks like a curse wearing his anger as a body. Ed tries to stop the creature, but the pact has already been made. The only way to destroy Pumpkinhead is to destroy the person who summoned it. When Ed dies, the demon falls. Later, his body is buried in the same cursed ground, waiting to become the next Pumpkinhead whenever another grieving person asks the woods for revenge. That is the oldest rule in this kind of story. Nothing buried stays buried when someone wants the past badly enough. The Witch, the Blair Witch Project, the Wicker Man, the Ritual, Onibaba, and Pumpkinhead all understand the same truth. Folk horror is not frightening because its monsters are unknown. It is frightening because somebody knows them very well. Somebody remembers the ritual. Somebody keeps the story alive, and somewhere beyond the firelight, something old is still listening.